the fact that she created a new album while creating a historic tour.
Crazy.
I mean, my mind was, I was like, how is that even possible? And then, first of all, like, I'm always a hopeless romantic.
It's interesting too because a lot of them have, of course, gone into the podcasting world. You think about like Micah Parsons.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it happens like right off the bat because he's learning a new offense, but I think Ben Johnson is an offensive savant and he's going to really be part of the reinvention of Caleb Williams. It's going to be exactly what Caleb Williams needed. And while so many people want to doubt Caleb Williams, and rightfully they're giving so much attention to Jaden Daniels, and it's like, God, if Jaden Daniels hadn't been so successful, you wonder if people would feel better about Caleb because the Bears could have gotten Jaden. It's just like the age-old curse, right, of having the guy who was drafted after you have more success early on. But
Live with Ty starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of Live with Ty. We have the biggest one today. Somehow, we landed an interview with the biggest reporter in the world. For those of you guys who don't know her, you already do. Her name is Laura Rutledge. Now, Laura is the primetime host of NFL Live and the SEC Network. You see her every Sunday on the biggest stages. Yes, that force of nature is now coming on the show. So honored to feature her episode. And big congratulations to her because you guys are used to seeing her on Sunday night. She just got promoted to now be the lead for Monday Night Football. So the girl that you are seeing on every television screen in the most viewed sports league in the entire world is making her entrance for the first time ever on Live with Ty. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Laura Rutledge.
Hi!
How are you? You look great.
I'm great. How are you? So do you.
Thank you, thank you. The studio, I like to say, it got a little bit of an upgrade since we last
It's
talked,
fancy. I know. Look at you.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for
Love
it.
it.
I'm really excited. So we're going to hop right into it. So something that we do on our show, we do a hot take. So the last guest hot take, his hot take was that the next generation of A-list athletes are going to come from B-list sports. And let me give you a little bit of context around that. He says because of personal branding and social media, the people that can garner the right attention, that's where the eyeballs are going to go. And that's what makes an A-list athlete. So what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, we've seen more and more that athletes are sort of taking the reins and controlling their own narratives and how their marketing goes and their connections with brands. And so much of it can just come from them and their own social media presence. And that's what's interesting to anyone who might be sponsoring them and brand deals and all of those things. So, yeah, I do think there are, there's a chance in maybe more of those B-list sports for them to be more of stars in those sports and to be more individual stars, which then lends itself to being a bigger presence on social media. But so much of it's based around their personality. Like there are plenty of big, following people that are on all the social media platforms that may not be a huge star in their specific sport, and they've just made that presence online. So it's fascinating. I mean, it's a big reason why this business is changing a ton.
Yeah, it is always changing. And usually how it goes for guests, we usually introduce themselves, what they do, but you need no introduction. So we're just going to skip over that. So first up, I want to say personally, congratulations as well. You're going to be now always featured on Monday Night Football. That is massively huge. Again, big congrats on that since the last time we spoke. I know in the sports broadcast journalism world, you're at the peak. You're at the peak. And I'm so happy that you're gracing Live with Ty and having this conversation. So I want to know personally, something that revolves around, let's say, especially in the broadcast journalism, what is it like working with all these professional athletes all the time in a professional setting?
Yeah, I think it's really cool to watch them because, so many who have reached the highest point in whatever sport they chose, but I mostly work with football players, former football players. They got there because they had a ton of natural ability, right? But they also worked extremely hard. Like you don't get to the top of the top in the NFL and have staying power there unless you were somebody that, really worked hard in addition to having that natural ability. So it's really cool to see them apply that work ethic to this, which is a totally different thing. But yet a lot of it, I think, does have similarities, especially for somebody like Dan Orlovsky, who, spent a ton of time preparing as a backup quarterback, right? But had to do so much in the film study and had to make himself valuable and worthwhile, and certainly had his time playing as well. But you see that translate to the TV screen, which is really cool. And he's now, arguably had already more success in his television career than he even did as a veteran NFL player. I mean, he was in the NFL for 12 years, which is no small accomplishment. And then, somebody like Marcus Spears, who had this
Love
incredible
him.
ability. I mean, this guy is the best athlete that you will run into. Like, I get it. He was a D lineman. He can catch and throw the ball better than I think anyone else on our show. And we've even proven that before. He's so good. And really, like, you see him. I've been fortunate to work with him and know him since 2015. And you see over the last decade just how he's evolved with this incredible personality, but also just really smart takes. And I think, the part of it is the football of it all, right? That was what he spent so much time doing. And he spent so much of his time in athletics, but it's also the ability to just let your personality shine. And that's something that I think in that era that these guys that I work with now played in, it wasn't as much about, the individual athlete having their moment and that personality coming out. It was more about, hey, fall in line, be on the team, come to work every day, all that. And you're seeing, I think now these guys have a little bit more freedom to be who they are. So, I mean, goodness, I'm so fortunate and thankful to work with all these guys who were former athletes and did it at the highest level. And, Ryan Clark won Super Bowls and just what they bring to the table is amazing. And you see why they had so much success in their previous careers.
Love that. And it seems like for you specifically, you kind of never get a break in always being surrounded by these athletes. You even married one, right? So having athleticism be kind of like your whole entire life, how has that shaped who you are as a person? And what's that experience been like, from office life, but also coming home?
Yeah, it's funny because I was always terrible at all sports. I loved watching them. I've always been a fan, but I am just not good at it. And so to end up in a world where like everything is based around people who have done it at the highest level, it's definitely humbling. My husband Josh obviously was a Major League Baseball player, and he's somebody that while you see the athleticism just in general life, like he could be like, oh, there's a fly in the house, and I would be chasing the thing around for like hours and have no chance of getting it. He can just be like, what, boom, and like whack the
And it's
fly down.
dead.
His hand-eye coordination is insane. Or like if he needs to throw a toy into the toy bin from like across the kitchen, it's going to just be money. Like he makes it every time, things like that. You see the athleticism in daily life, but in all reality, he retired in 2018, I believe, and he had kind of fallen out of love with the game because it had been so hard. He had been injured, and listen, like nobody feels sorry for him. He got to a level of baseball that people only dream of, but I
Yeah.
think he was very hard on himself. And so, kind of seeing him, even through our son, who's 2 now and loves baseball, seeing him start to fall back in love with the sport a little bit again has been really cool. And
That's
then,
amazing.
being surrounded by these guys who that's at home. And then I come to work and it's like, it's not just that they were all involved in a variety of sports, right? Football might have been what they ended up doing, but they all played everything. They're all so competitive. Like it's just part of every single thing every single day. There's always some like competition going on. I'm in the ESPN green room right now, and this is just kind of where anybody would come in and hang out. And they
Yeah.
would, if they were in here, they would be like in here yelling at each other about God knows what, and like say, "No, I'm right. No, I'm right." Debating or competing at something. It's just kind of like that pervasive theme through everything that we do here.
Love that. So, Laura, we have to talk about the recent moment that broke the internet. I'm talking about the recent podcast episode that came out. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been following it along, and I personally wasn't a Swiftie before, but
Yeah.
hearing her on that podcast, I remember the first thing I did was texting my girlfriend. I was like, dude, what you were saying this whole time is so right. I understand completely now. No, seriously, she's such
I
a
love
lovable
it.
character, but in
Yeah.
the world of media, there's a reason it's breaking the internet. What are your thoughts about the episode and this cultural moment?
Yeah, I think what you just said is really cool because I've had a few text exchanges like that. Actually, our NFL Live group thread, Marcus was like, "She's so dope." Like just like the fact that she did that is so cool. And
Amazing.
RC and Mina was bringing up the point that she's brought in such a new and vast fan base to the sport that we all love, and I think that's so
Yes.
cool and so special. My favorite thing about Taylor and like what she did with all of this is just that she's very self-aware. She is very calculated with how she does things. So I feel like this
Mhm.
was very much a, hey, here's a move I'm going to make because I'm really happy right now and I really love Travis and I'm going to, show that to the world. But she also loves this album that she's made, which I can't wait for it
Mhm.
to come out October 3rd. And
Yeah,
I
same
am a
now.
Swiftie. I'm like, I've been a fan of hers. It's like we're the same age. We like, I followed her for all of these years and love her
Uh-huh.
music. But what I think I'm most impressed with is just how she's continued to evolve. And again, like she's super smart and super funny, but she's such a trailblazer and she's so down to earth. And I just think there was a lot of wisdom in that podcast. And then the other thing that was really cool about it, I've covered Travis, I've covered Jason. Now we work with Jason here at ESPN. Seeing those guys just embrace what their life has become. Like this is
Yeah.
crazy. You're now like one of the most famous people in the world, and you
Correct.
went from being like a couple of like really likable, I think, in general, guys that played in the NFL to being these like big media stars. It's fascinating what it is. But I think at the end of the day, as much as there's always going to be haters, right? But I think what that podcast did was really give her a chance to show people who she really is, which if you're not a
Yes.
Swiftie, you got to learn that. I thought it was awesome. I made my husband sit there and watch the whole thing. And he likes Taylor.
Good. That's really
We get
good.
right. We went to the Eras tour, so he's gotten to see her in person. He was so impressed. He likes a lot of her music, but I don't know that he had ever like really listened to her talk for that long. She hasn't done
Right.
that much, right? And he was very impressed too. We laughed through it. We loved it. So just really cool that she did that.
No, I think it was amazing because again, everybody knows who Taylor Swift is. She's been killing it for the past 10 years. But the
Right.
thing that is so special about how media is changing, you might have seen her premiere like her new album like a late night show, right? But since it's a
Yeah.
podcast, it's a longer conversation. So
So
we
true.
spent 2 hours with her. And I don't know how anyone who watches that interview cannot fall in love with this girl. Her journey,
Yeah.
what she's doing, the fact that she created a new album while creating a historic
It's
tour.
crazy.
I mean, my mind was,
Crazy.
I was like, how is that even possible? I'm always a hopeless romantic. So to see the authenticity
Yeah.
of their relationship and see
I agree.
Travis, because I've been following, like, I've been a Travis Kelce fan for a long time. So
Yeah.
I come on the opposite side of it, right? But the thing that was really unique to me is that Travis, even though from my perspective, it doesn't get bigger than Travis Kelce, but clearly
Right.
I'm mistaken. He knows his role and how to really be there for her and support her and embrace
Yeah.
this new journey. It's just so special. I mean, I think that episode, it's obviously going to be the most viewed one probably on the internet soon. And there's a
Yeah.
reason why you can't not like this girl. I remember when she was talking about getting her master's. I'm like, wow, how dare they? You
I
know what I mean?
know.
I had never been a fan like
No.
that. So again, like I'm
Oh, it's
glad we
amazing.
agree on
She
that.
also, I mean, with all that, reclaiming her music and even like having the wherewithal to credit the fans for coming to the Eras tour so that she could then afford to buy her own music back. Like that's
I
what she's
know.
choosing to spend that money. I thought was really neat, but it also shows how she is informing younger artists who are coming up. She really cares about that. So
Correct.
there's just so many cool things, and it was awesome. It was so cool to get like a peek inside what they're like and what goes
Yeah.
through her mind. And she's a gem. She's a treasure.
What was your favorite moment from that episode?
My favorite moment was the talk around the sourdough bread, which
Okay.
it hits a little close to home. I love to cook, but I'm not a baker. So my husband actually got into sourdough.
Okay.
He said he said because the winters in Connecticut, he's from Alabama, he's from the South.
Yeah.
The winters in Connecticut are brutal, and he said that he needed a hobby in the winter because he was like, I'm dying on the vine, like I'm miserable. It's dark at 4 p.m. So he
Yeah.
started doing sourdough bread making, and I was like, I don't get this. This is too much. Like this is consuming your life. So we were laughing so hard when she was talking about that whole part about how like all she thinks about is her bread, and this is life after the Eras tour. That was our favorite part, just because it hit close to home. But my other second nomination for my favorite part was when she was talking about just like spending, getting too caught up in things on the internet and like what people say
Yeah.
about you. And obviously, like whatever, anything that happens to me is on such a smaller scale, like a massively smaller scale to what's happening to her,
Yeah.
obviously. So, but she had some great advice, being like just in general for people. It doesn't even have to be social media, but that like people have to earn your energy and that your energy is
Yes.
expensive and that not
Yes.
everyone can afford it. And
I thought, oh my goodness, that's so interesting because I at times have been very guilty of like, it could be just anybody who said something negative and that's what I spent my energy on instead of focusing on the positive or instead of just like ignoring it and not letting it have any hold on my life or any, seeping into my psyche, kind of how she was talking about. So I loved that part too.
When she said the energy's expensive, I was snapping my fingers,
I know.
quickly. So
I was like, somebody
wow.
write that down.
Yeah, like quote that. That's iconic, and that's
Good.
why she's an icon. So
Yeah.
another part of that podcast that marks the changing, let's say, of the digital industry, right? It's such a cultural moment because it hasn't been done before, and it really shows the power of this new digital narrative. And you're at the helm of that, where you're coming, let's say, from a more traditional sense, right? Where NFL Live, you have the SEC, and now also Monday Night Football. And again, congratulations on that. But now seeing some of the entities that you work on, right? Having, I guess, more of a digital presence, what has that been like? And I'll cite some things specifically. So you have the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders documentary. That's changing in the sense the inside look inside a prestigious NFL organization. And it's blowing up online, which means from a traditional media sense, now it's a point of conversation. Then you also have the new Dallas Cowboys documentary, and that's going to blow up on social media. And then you also, one of my favorite documentaries is the new SEC documentary.
Yeah.
That just takes collegiate athletes to a new level. And you're at the helm of that from a traditional sense. So what has that journey been like? Because you are the best of the best, seeing that landscape just changing all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because this was probably, golly, like 2012 or something. It was like one of the first things I ever did out of college. But I worked at the time for Fox Sports, and they had brought me out to the Pac-12 basketball tournament. So it was men's and women's, but I was doing primarily men's. And I promise there's a point here that's really interesting.
Okay.
They were for the first time trying to do like social media on TV. Now, social media was just Twitter at that point. Like there really wasn't anything else. I guess there was Facebook, but you weren't really doing that. So like Twitter was kind of the new thing. And they told me, well, you're going to be the social media reporter. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't, at this point, I'm like 24. They're like, oh, she's like the young, maybe I was 23. I don't even know. I was super young. And they're like, you're going to be doing these tweets on TV. Okay, great. So, but the execution of it was like all botched and it was so bad. And I did the first day. I cried all night. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm like getting fired. Like I'm failing at this. This is so bad. And people, that was when Twitter, people could access you. So they're like tweeting me like, oh, this is so dumb. You're so dumb, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, they were right because we weren't executing it right. We were trying to figure it out. So I take that. And then I think like now here we are just not that far out from that. That was, what, 12, 13 years ago. And here we are where now it's all intertwined. Like it might as well be social media half the time. Like it's all digital. And then, you want things to be digital. I mean, ESPN's about to come out with this new platform, this revamped platform where everything is all in one place. And it's going to be very, very much on the forefront of the future of digital media. And yet it is still traditional, but it's just more catered to the fans. And that's what I think this has become. It's all at your fingertips. So we think about that a lot. Like even I'm looking at our NFL Live show that will come up in, just a little bit today. And a lot of it is, okay, this could be clipped off and put on our app, or this could be clipped off and this will go on Instagram and this, and we don't know exactly what's going to hit, right? But that's kind of how things are thought through. And then how many things in this show, there's probably 5 or 6 things in the show that come just off of social media that then we bring back onto, standard television. So it's at this point, I think there's not as much even difference between the traditional TV and what the digital side is. And that's kind of the goal.
I think that's amazing. And that's the first time I've heard it where there have been these 2 separate lanes, but there is a connection between the two, but it hasn't been stated. I haven't heard that before. So thank you so much for the people watching out there. The landscape is changing and make sure that you're a part of it. Start a podcast. I don't know.
Right? Come on.
So ESPN just struck up a new deal where they're revamping their whole platform. So for the non-sportive people out there, can you explain a little bit of what people can expect with that new deal?
Yeah, I think the main piece of it is that just anything that you want at any time is going to be right there at your fingertips and on your
Mhm.
phone or however you stream. And certainly the ESPN app right now, you can still watch on there, but it's a little bit harder to access everything. This is just streamlining all of it, making it better and crisper, and it doesn't really matter what you're a fan of or what you want to watch. You're going to be able to watch it and find it on this new revamped app. It's bigger and better than even an app, right? But that's just sort of like
Okay.
what we call it,
Yeah.
and it's going to be really cool. I'm excited for it. I think our whole company is excited for it. It's pretty neat. Like Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN, has been so smart about how he's been ahead of the game with all of this. Like even when the ESPN app was first being built and being created, and having the ability to be on your phone, and yet you can like go to the grocery store and still be watching the game that you didn't want to leave the house to watch. That's been really kind of where all this started, and it's just getting bigger and better. So I think it's going to be great for fans.
So now with the digital landscape, right? We touched about how everything's changing, right? That means we have to tap into the creator economy. And I think something special, especially within the NFL and also NBA, is happening there that I haven't heard a lot of conversation about. So now, for the first time, you have your big creators, your influencers, your TikTokers, your YouTube, but now athletes are creators themselves.
Mhm.
And you also have these creators that are having these certain initiatives with big organizations like the NBA, the NFL, and that line is blurring all the more. So can you speak a little bit onto that, where I don't think it's a coincidence that, Travis Hunter, Juju Smith, Cam Ward, all these new NFL personalities, I'm seeing them on my For You page, streaming, clipping,
Yeah.
things like that. And the landscape is changing every single day. I want to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I think it's all monetized, right? And that's a
Yeah.
good thing. I mean, it's great for these athletes, and it's giving them a chance. It even starts in college, right? So many of them are able to do this while they're still in school, which
Yeah.
is great. And I think it's going to continue to be that way, right? Because these leagues are looking to reach as many fans as possible, and especially younger fans. And that's something that I think at times you haven't seen as many younger fans, because maybe they didn't have a reason to really care about it, but they do care about a Travis Hunter, or they do care about a
Yes.
Cam Ward. Listen, I don't know what team I'm going to care about, but if Travis Hunter's playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and all of a sudden I'm a Jaguars fan because I like this guy,
Mm.
and it's kind of back to the hot take that we started with, where really it's the personalities that are going to drive it. It's like, who do you want to root for? And I think more and more you're seeing people, and it starts with at a younger age, right? You're seeing people choose. They say, I don't have to watch that if I don't really like the people, or if I don't really care. I'm going to choose something I want to watch. We have so many different options, right? If you're watching TV, or let's say like somebody in your family's watching TV and you're like, this is boring, I don't want to watch this. You pull up your phone and you start scrolling, and then you're watching something different. And you can sort of curate that for yourself. So I think you're going to continue to see these athletes, be really tapped into that whole world. And so many are so good at, sharing their personality. And I love that part of it. It's interesting too, because a lot of them have, of course, gone into the podcasting world. You think about like Micah
Yeah.
Parsons, and how he's found his voice via social media and these platforms. And I wonder, like, as his situation with Jerry Jones continues to unfold, how much we may end up hearing from him. He's been pretty quiet right now for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
but I'm like, ooh, I wonder what we may see. I guess he probably thought he said everything in the statement that he put out, which was pretty lengthy. But I don't know. I am really interested to see how that continues to grow. And I also admire all of these people that are able to do it, because it takes a lot of time, and
Correct.
they're managing these really demanding schedules with everything they've got going on, and still able to find time to create content and to continue to push that narrative, and really push their own limits.
Yeah, 100%. As someone who's doing the whole creator economy thing, it's tough. It is a
Yeah,
time commitment. For a lot of people, it's sometimes it's their full-time jobs. As you know, you work with people on your teams that do it, right? So for these
right.
NFL and NBA and all these other athletes that are doing that simultaneously, I mean, hats
It's a
off to
lot.
you. It's a
I
lot. It's a
agree.
lot. And when Micah Parsons dropped that podcast episode, I think it gives people more of a reason to root for him. There's something
Yeah.
special about a podcast is that you're just spending so much time with him, right? If
Mhm.
you're not authentic on a platform like a podcast, you're gonna be found out really, really quick. And again,
Yeah.
I'd want to see into what is happening, in the room between the Jerry Jones and the Micah Parsons. You don't hear those conversations, but now you actually can because of social media. So, Micah, if you're listening, let us know when it's coming out, and
Yeah,
we are
what's
right
going
there.
on, Micah? We're
Yeah,
in.
tell us, tell us. So another thing, let's say from a more traditional route, I think the landscape is changing in the sense that let's say somebody wants to become the next you. That is changing a little bit in how that might get done. I saw that ESPN just hired its first, I think it's digital influencer in Katie Feeney. And
Yeah.
she was an influencer first. She's really tapped into that creator economy. So what's your opinion on that in the sense for her to become a creator? It's very untraditional route, but that just landed her a very, very traditional job.
Yeah, it's going to be really neat to see how she's used. I'm really
Yeah,
excited about this because I think it goes back to what I was saying about like drawing in a younger fan base, but also a different fan base. And
correct.
right now, NFL Live's unique in this. We usually have really good numbers with women and young women, really women of all ages. But women are a huge untapped group of sports fans. A lot of times,
Yes.
and I talk to a lot of women who are like, I don't feel like there's as much for me on TV when it comes to sports, but I like this, I like that, and I love watching the game and I know the game. And then there are other women who are like, I'm kind of new to this, but I love it and I want to get into it. I think we're missing out on that whole group in a big way. And I say we, like, just kind of in general. It's not necessarily specific even to ESPN. I just think there's a ton of women who love sports. They love football. I mean, we've seen women's basketball take off in a huge way too,
Yeah.
which has been
Going
great. But
crazy.
right, which I love. But I think, somebody like Katie comes in and she brings in her whole fan base of people, which is millions of followers. And it's not
Right.
even that you necessarily translate that exact amount of people to say, okay, every single one of those people is going to now watch ESPN. What maybe they already were, right? Because her content has been heavily sports related. But it's almost more just that connectivity. Like, okay, when ESPN collaborates with her on TikTok, ESPN has a huge TikTok following, but let's say they do. Well, now they gain this group of people. It's all just like sort of bringing it all together and making it work and adding something new and different and trying something new and different. So I'm excited for her, and I think we could see a lot more like that. We'll just have to see how it continues to go. We do a cool thing here. It's coming up, or maybe it already happened, but they bring in creators from just across different social media platforms to our
Yeah.
campus, and they do a bunch of content on campus. It's always really fun. Like I've met a lot of creators that have
Okay.
come through just in that way, and
Yeah.
I've even done like some TikToks with a few of them. So I think we're always trying to find ways to keep pushing forward and to keep making sure that we're ahead of the curve as much as possible.
So the next thing I want to talk about is off of the point you just made. So when we first discussed how the media landscape is changing all the time, and let's say since there are so many options from a digital perspective, somebody who has an aspiration to appear on TV, get their content known, all that type of stuff, sometimes you might have the problem, when you're at a restaurant and there's just way too many options, you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I have no idea where to
Cheesecake
begin. So
Factory menu.
yeah, it's cheesecake. Actually, cheesecake's one of my favorites, but
I love it too. It's so good.
it's so good. But anyway, I found sometimes in my experience, but also with a lot of colleagues, where there is so much that's at your fingertips because of social media. It's first of all, it's hard to have that bigger picture in mind, but it's also hard to get started. So we have
Yeah.
this new segment that we're starting. It's called DMs Open. So if there was one DM you could send to any person who wants their content to be seen, who maybe wants to be a TV personality, but they don't know where to start, they're struggling with that, and everything is changing every single day.
Yeah.
What's the
I love
message?
that.
What's the message that you would send them?
Yeah, I love that. I would say the biggest thing, and this doesn't necessarily help narrow it down, but I would say
Okay.
try everything. Like whatever it is, there's no such thing as bad experience because even if you do something and you don't like it, or maybe you fail at it, I actually think that's even better because you learn so much. I mean, the amount of
Mhm.
things like I failed at, and then I was like, oh my God, I suck. Like I can't do this, but I still harken back to those experiences and say, okay, so I can't do that again. I got to do this, and you just learn so much from it. I think that's kind of the main thing. But then also like finding ways to get yourself in the room. I'll use
Mm.
SEC Media Days as an example. There were
Yeah,
a few
please.
young broadcasters who were there in Atlanta this year at SEC Media Days, who were coming as interns, or maybe they were there to like shoot some content. There were a few of them, even asking questions in the room to the coaches, which I think is really impressive because that's hard to do at times. Like Yeah, at times I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to like raise my hand in this room and have everyone be like, oh, she botched her question. So it's really, I think, cool to see them doing that. But anyway, the point being more that just being there, they all connected with so many of us. And like there are a few of these young people who are gonna, now come out to SEC Nation during the fall and come see us for our college football show. And maybe we'll have them like be helpers for us and sort of get a behind the scenes look, and they can learn and just continue to make those connections. I think that as much as like so much of our world now is I'm emailing and I'm texting and everything's
Yeah.
online and all that, everything's Zoom, the personal connection is still really important. And like just the vibe that you could get from somebody meeting them in person and being like, hey, this is a cool person to have around, and let's give them a chance. Let's extend that hand out to them and say, come learn with us, and we'll connect you with other people. So I think it's trying everything, but it's also like via that getting yourself into these rooms where there's going to be, people who can connect you and who can, do great things for you.
And that's another remark to you as a person. Again, you're always giving back at the
Oh,
height of your
goodness.
career. So again,
Thanks.
personal shout out to you again, guys. She is awesome. I'm loving this conversation. So we're gonna
You're
keep
so
going.
sweet.
So something that we talked about the last time we spoke is when you are trying to build that personal brand, maybe be careful of, let's say, some of the content that you are posting, just
Yeah.
because maybe years down the line it might not be used. However, I'm gonna contest that a little bit because recently I've been seeing a lot of these creators who are extremely non-traditional in these traditional settings. So there was Cenat, he did a collaboration with WWE and Pat McAfee. There was Druski
Yeah.
just an hour ago, just was on the Stephen A. Smith show. And some of these
Yeah.
creators, when it comes to, let's say, doing non-traditional things where, hey, if in 5 years you want to be this person, you should not do that, right? They do it anyway just because it's authentic. It's what makes fans
Yeah.
love them, and that's why they're able to bring these such big audience, because they're extremely non-traditional, but now it seems to be working in a traditional setting because it's eyeballs. You look at Speed and you look at all these people where they do he barks. I mean, he barks, and
I
he's been on
know.
ESPN like 7 times
I
now. I
know.
mean,
It's
what,
true.
Laura,
No,
what is happening? What is going on? Please tell me.
yeah. Okay, well, you're on to something for sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like the best way to describe this is that it's an entertainment business. So there's all different
Okay.
types of entertainment. So if you think about your content, this is actually probably a really good way to think about it. Whatever you're creating, like, is it entertaining? And
Mhm.
that's sometimes subjective, right? But I don't know, is it going to make people stop and be like, huh, what is that? Or laugh or draw them in, or then be like, oh my God, I can't believe that. The shock value, it can even be good at times. And it just attracts attention, it entertains. Ultimately, while what we do on, linear ESPN every day is kind of normal, right? But we're trying to entertain too. Like we are sitting here doing the same thing where we're trying to say, how can we entertain? What can we do that's gonna, keep people watching? How do we do that? And that's what I think it all comes back to.
So, personal curiosity. So, you are now going to be one of the main hosts on Monday Night Football, but you're also still going to be keeping your roles with NFL Live and also SEC Nation. What is the difference between the two? Because when you're a host, I feel like it's a lot more personality driven compared to sideline
Yeah.
reporting, but I could be wrong. You are at the mountaintop, so please imbue us with
No.
some knowledge.
You're totally right, Ty. Like it's definitely more personality based with hosting. The one thing that I've tried to be more aware of is finding ways when it's appropriate to bring a little bit more personality to the sideline, because I think at
Gotcha.
times like sideline reporting can become a little robotic. You're trying to get in and out so quick. Like the last thing you want
Yeah.
to do is talk over action, or the last thing you want to do is like take time away from the booth. So really what I do most of when I'm a sideline reporter is I'm like an informant down there. I'm not even doing this stuff on air, but I'm hitting my talkback button to the production truck like, hey, number 56 just changed jerseys, or hey, over here at the, far left 30, there's somebody who's gone down, like you could get a shot over here. I'm like doing that more than I am
Wow.
an actual report. And it's a really important role. There's so many people who like want to hate on sideline reporters, and believe me, I've seen all of it. People are like,
Mhm.
this is stupid. I don't, these idiots down here, like nobody cares what the sideline reporter says. You have no idea. I'm talking to the haters. You
Of
have
course.
no idea what we are actually doing down there, that it goes far beyond, just, hey, here's a report, this person's got a lower leg injury and they're questionable to return. You're doing some of that, and that's important, but a lot of it's like informing the rest of the group. Sometimes I'll have them open me up in break if we're in a commercial break, and I can say to the broadcast booth, the play-by-play and analyst, like, hey, here's something to watch for. This is happening down here. You guys talk about it. It's not my place to talk about, but I just want you to know that it's happening. Things like that all the time. So yeah, I love both, like hosting and reporting, but they are very different. But more and more, I found that like doing both of them makes me better at the other one. So I never really want to give either one up because they're like, they're really valuable to do. And I truly, I mean, it's going to be a lot, right? Like the workload is insane, but I'm really grateful and excited for it.
And honestly, it seems like you can't get away because ESPN and NFL love you, so, and SEC. Like, I don't think they function without you. So like, you don't need to worry about that. You're just so good at your job. It's crazy. So another thing that I'm super a big fan of, the SEC is also changing. So you have Texas that joined last year. You also have Oklahoma. They had the crazy Netflix documentary. What are you excited about for this upcoming season amidst of all this change? Oh, and also the new house settlement with NIL. That's going to change everything again. Tell me, what are your thoughts on it? Because again, you get to talk about this for a living, which I'm so jealous of, by the way. But tell me.
You're going to be great at it when you're doing it for a living too, I promise.
Thank you.
And I can't wait. You got to remember the little people though. I'm going to hold you to that.
All right, please. I'll have them all on. We'll do one joint episode. It'll be great. Tell me.
I love it. It'd be great. So there's so much with the SEC. Like I do think it's going to be fascinating to see what Arch Manning looks like with Texas. I mean, Texas is stacked, and like if they don't win the national championship, it's going to be disappointing. So that's crazy, right? To think about like that's the way they're going into the season. I feel like we're overlooking Georgia, which is weird, but Georgia hasn't been talked about maybe as much as they have in previous years. Alabama's going to be a lot better. Just seeing them kind of, come into their fold under Kalen DeBoer after having a down season last year. And then there's teams like Missouri, for instance, that has probably the easiest schedule. It's not easy, don't get me wrong, but the easiest schedule maybe in the league. They could surprise some people. Oklahoma with John Mateer. There's just so many big name quarterbacks too. My Gators, DJ Lagway's got to stay healthy, but they could surprise some people. Love him. South Carolina, I think there are so many incredible teams and opportunities for these teams because they have good quarterbacks. And there's always somebody that, we've overlooked in the preseason. Maybe that's like a Texas A&M. No, not as many people are talking about them. And A&M fans are like, don't talk about us because we fall off every year and we get our hopes up and then it doesn't happen. But there's just, I think, a lot to be excited about with what this is going to look like. And I think the SEC, as much as Texas kind of took it as far as they possibly could last year, but there's a lot of SEC pride that maybe got hurt last year in the first edition of an expanded playoff. They want to see more teams from the league in the playoff, and I think it's very possible with the talent throughout the league.
Do you think the new Netflix documentary, is it going to make the SEC even crazier, or is it already the craziest it could be?
No, I think it's going to make it crazier. I mean, it's really cool. Like that to me, the inside scoop that you get, from something like that documentary, it's excellent for anybody who hasn't seen it. That runs contrary to what these coaches have really ever done, but they understand the value in it and the potential to monetize some of this, but also just like to bring attention and recruiting and NIL to their programs. That matters, and they get it, so I think it's only going to grow the lore of the SEC, and it's going to make this season, even that much more interesting for fans, especially knowing some of this backstory.
I love that documentary. Like, I found myself rooting for Diego Pavia. Like, wow, that guy, dog, crazy, right?
Dog. He's wild. He's wild. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth in the best way. I'm like, please keep talking.
In the best way. I think he teeters the line, but in the sports, when you're looking for a leader, that's what you want. But maybe off the field, I won't worry about that. I'm still rooting for him.
No, like you want to play for him, right? You want to play with him. You want to be part of his crazy aura and part of his team. He's got aura. He's something else.
He's something else. Yeah, he is something else. So Now, last question before we get into the fun part. When you first got started, you were streaming for a lot of these traditional networks, where you think about your NBCs, your ABCs, your CBSs. But now the landscape shifted where it's for a lot of these streaming services. I remember when I first saw you actually on TV, it was actually on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's changed completely. What's that been like working inside the industry and still right in the mountaintop when everything changes?
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to speak for like the people who have come before me, but I think a lot of the thought when the streaming services kind of showed interest in buying rights to any of the games in these leagues and these pro leagues, especially, people are like, that's not really their world. Like they're not going to really know how to do it. This, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And Netflix and Amazon, and we're going to see more and more of this. YouTube,
Apple
all
too
of
now,
these,
probably.
Apple, like they're all getting in on these rights deals, and they have so much money to spend, and they're going to keep spending it to buy up whatever they can get. And they also have executed it really well. They made great hires on the production side, which is sort of not talked about as much. People see the front-facing talent, but the reason why all of that worked is because of the staffs that they put in place and the production that they put in place for it to come off and do really well. And so I think now it's like if you're talking about the more traditional broadcast companies, they're like, oh, all right, so these streaming services are here to stay, and this is going to be a major shift. It's a seismic shift in our business because so much of it is now, right, like it's about, okay, now you've got more players. I mean, think about it like you're sitting at this round table, like the knights of the round table of all these, your CBSs, your ESPNs, your ABCs, your Foxes of the world, and all of a sudden Netflix is like, let me pull up to the table, and then, Amazon, and they all have legitimate seats at the table, and I think it's just really impressive to see. That's going to continue to grow. It's honestly, I believe, good for everybody. It's great for the leagues. It's great for the fans. There are more and more chances to watch these games and to watch this coverage in different ways, which I think fans deserve. So I love it. I think it's awesome, and it's only going to continue to get bigger and better.
And again, when you have these companies like an Amazon and Apple at the table, they have the deepest pockets. So again, money talks.
They're not worried about spending.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're tech companies. It's crazy. It's crazy. So now we're here at the fun part. So Laura, for the next guest that's going to come on, you are going to give your hot take, and it can be anything sports related. And you are at the epitome of the sports world. So I need to hear a really, really good hot take. Hit me with it.
Okay. I think this is a hot take.
Tell me.
I don't know. There might be some people that are like, that take's not that hot, but I think it's pretty hot.
Okay.
I think Caleb Williams and the Bears this year are going to surprise some people.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it happens like right off the bat because he's learning a new offense, but I think Ben Johnson is an offensive savant, and he's going to really be part of the reinvention of Caleb Williams. It's going to be exactly what Caleb Williams needed. And while so many people want to doubt Caleb Williams, and rightfully they're giving so much attention to Jaden Daniels, and it's like, God, if Jaden Daniels hadn't been so successful, you wonder if people would feel better about Caleb because the Bears could have gotten Jaden. It's just like the age-old curse, right, of having the guy who was drafted after you have more success early on. But I think Caleb's going to come into his own this year. They've surrounded him with so much talent. The O-line should be a ton better. I think Rome Odunze is going to make a big step. They look like they should be a much better team, and I'm buying it. I think they're going to have a big year. I think they're going to get to the playoffs. I'm not saying that they necessarily, win a playoff game, but I think maybe we're underestimating Caleb Williams a little bit. And in year one, he's going to do better. And now I really can't wait to see your next guest take down my hot take, because you could take it down.
It's not going to be that hard to take down. There was one other take that another guest had where he said the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl. And it was crazy. But also, Laura, yours is also pretty out there. I'll just let you know.
No, mine's crazy. No, I wanted it to be hot for you, though. I'm not giving you like a lukewarm take. There are plenty of lukewarm takes I could give. I can't wait to see whoever comes on next is going to be like, oh my God, what an idiot. But I love that. That's the great part of this.
Well, that's good. And that's why it's my favorite segment. Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome. It's so good to reconnect. Let's stay in touch. You are going to kill it. I'm going to see you on my TV forever, and it makes me smile all the time. So thank you so much. Again, you were brilliant. Good luck with your show.
Thanks. I'll see you soon.
Take care. Wow. What an episode. If you haven't subscribed, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. I'm just going to leave it at that. What an episode. Wow. Guys, we just did an interview with the biggest reporter in the entire world. I mean, she covers the NFL, The NFL is the most profitable league in the entire world, like 3 times over, guys. This is nuts. And I'm filled with jubilation, so usually I do a recap of each episode, but it's a little bit hard for me right now. But all I can say is, if you have not subscribed to the channel, we're only gonna get cooler guests. We're only gonna get bigger names. We're only gonna have more exciting content. Make sure you share this episode. We have it all for you here. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna leave it at that. And we're out. Peace.